So Marcus Mariota, many people thought was going to be a superstar, and it hasn't really worked out too well. And him, like some other people I've made videos on with this same kind of idea, isn't necessarily a complete bust just yet. He did have a good game with the Raiders, but still, he certainly hasn't lived up to the hype of being a number 2 overall pick, especially not with the Titans, because he's not even a Titan anymore. So let's talk about what went wrong. And before we do that, we have to talk about what was considered of him when he got drafted. So we'll go back to my favorite website to use for this stuff, Walter Football, to talk about his strengths and his weaknesses. So his strengths, it was a lot about him being athletic, which is fair. He was incredibly athletic and still is, dangerous runner, fast and agile. To say he's an accurate passer, we'll circle back to that one a little bit, but dude, quick release, strong arm, makes good decisions. I do agree with all of that stuff. You can go down a little bit. There's the intelligence. You can talk about, proven leader, if that's something you care about. That's true. And then some intangibles, which who knows how much you can value, but there is some value there, like does everything the coaches ask, humble and eager to learn, phenomenal work ethic, stuff like that. On to weaknesses. Number 1 is pocket passing must improve, which is like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of like the number 1 thing of being a quarterback is pocket passing, so that might be a bit of a red flag right off the bat. Another thing is he rarely threw into tight windows. More on that later as well. That's important, and the ball placement needs to get better. Not entirely sure how he's very accurate, but ball placement needs to get better. Those seem a bit contradictory, and I would say maybe the better way to phrase it is he makes some very accurate throws, but sort of lack the consistency, at least in college. There's also he played in a college system. Very true. There's can look to run too quickly, which is always a concern with some of these college guys, especially guys who are good runners. You want them to be, passers first. That translates to the NFL better. Fumbles the ball regularly, and then, some other stuff like needs work working under center and could use more beef on his frame. Again, stuff like that isn't huge, but okay, that's what it says. And like right here, he is a guy where you watch some of his best plays and you totally see why he was a number 2 overall pick. It's not like sometimes someone gets selected high and then you go back and watch their tape and you're wondering, why did anyone think he was going to be good? That's not the case of Mariota. He made some good plays. This is an example where it's zone coverage. There's a receiver running over the middle. It is admittedly going to get wide open, but watch what happens. I mean, look, Mariota fakes the handoff. He is going to fire this one, and it's just a great throw. Really accurate, gets there in a hurry. Really good job of Mariota. So he is capable of doing that. He did make some great throws in college, no doubt. But now let's go over here. This is a good example of one of the things I'm talking about. So you see that there's a player open, and we got to talk about some negatives because this is not a why was Mariota good in college video. This is a why did Mariota not play well in the NFL video, or at least not live up to the hype. And you see there's a wide open player, and this isn't going to be the best throw. As you see, it's just a little bit low. I mean, it still looks like it was caught. I believe that one was caught, but it's still, could have been a bit more accurate. Not a big deal, but maybe some breadcrumbs right here. Like there's also one like this. So you see it's going to be a double move here by this receiver. It's zone coverage. Watch what happens. So right when this play starts, the move is going to work out perfectly. Wide open, really well ran right there. So Mariota is going to make this throw. And this is where some of the concerns start to come in. I mean, he just completely misses it right there. We'll go over to this one now because I paused it right now, so your screen didn't freeze. But the reason why I want to talk about it is, okay, so he missed some throws but was inaccurate. What's the issue for that? And typically, one of the things I always look for when something like that happens is, was it a throwing motion issue? Was there some sort of issue with his throwing motion? And that's something that pretty much no one pays attention to when you're evaluating players is throwing motion, but it seems like that actually is something we should be paying attention to. Guys with great throwing motions tend to be more successful in the NFL than guys with poor throwing motions, even if the actual traits of them as a player are about the same. So that's something that I want to look at, and there were some little things you could look at with Mariota in that regard. So I'll just play this one right here. I'll show it a couple times. You see how arm dependent that throw was, and just to get in front of the comments, I know people are going to say, well, he was running around trying to make something happen. He was off balance, but that's a good example of showing that he is so athletic that he can sort of use that arm strength to get it over there like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's smart to do it that way. You still want to make sure that you always get your feet planted. You're always making the motion work. You know, throwing off balance is one thing, but he didn't even really have to throw off balance right there. And there were some other issues just with how arm dependent it was. Didn't really get his feet and legs and hips into it. So like this one's another example. This is in the NFL, and you're going to see how, I mean, this is going to end up getting intercepted right here. But watch just the throwing motion. And the main thing I can see is that you want your shoulders to almost move as if there's like a bar, like a steel bar with both of your shoulders. So your shoulders aren't moving. You know, one's not going down while one's going like, you know, down also or off to the side. You want them to move together. And Mariota's doesn't really do that. And a big part of it is, you know, it's just a little clunky. He moves that left leg pretty far over. It's again, I'm not a perfect, you know, an analyst of this stuff. I'm not a throwing coach. I couldn't tell you every little detail, but you can tell the shoulders and the you know, lack of getting your legs into it does appear to be a real thing. Typically, my mindset on this stuff is I'm not exactly an expert on this, but I do know poor throwing form when I see it, and that does appear to be the case with Mariota, which people love to say, oh, well, maybe you can coach that out of someone, but I've never seen anyone ever coach that out of anybody, so except for Josh Allen. He's the one exception. So it's possible, but it's very rare. And so then finally something like this. So, you know, that last play ended up as an interception, and he would just miss some throws, and one of the things I brought up during his negatives was he wouldn't often throw it through tight windows, which resulted in him not turning the ball over too much, but it also resulted in him not really being able to move the ball down the field in the NFL when it's pretty much just tight windows. And this play is a good example of him not, you know, pulling the trigger when he should. So this is a very classic Tennessee Titans play. You take advantage of Derrick Henry by running play action, and then you're going to have multiple players run over the middle. And the way you do this is, you know, the play action, it gets guys open, then Mariota fires, you know, the ball. You've seen Tannehill do this with great success. And so Mariota, you know, fakes the handoff. There's a little bit of pressure, but he steps up in the pocket. He's fine. And you see that he should absolutely be making this throw right here. And this is a great example of kind of the issue with Mariota is he wasn't getting to that read quick enough, and he wasn't taking the shots that he should take. And one of the things that just drove Titans fans crazy when Mariota was there was that he just would not fire the trigger on or pull the trigger on some of these situations and would take a sack instead. And that's what's going to happen here. Look, he tries to run instead, ends up getting sacked. And that's just a mistake because he could have easily gotten 20 yards on that play. So stuff like that really became a key thing. And you saw his sack numbers progressively went up year after year after year. Well, actually, I should clarify. His sack numbers did not go up every year. His rookie year, he had a high sack number at 38. But then it dropped all the way to 23 in his second year. So it seemed like he was getting it under control. But then it was 27, 42, and then it was 25 again in just 6 games he started, which eventually led to him just, you know, getting benched for Tannehill, and the rest is history. He's only played 1 game since then, and that was the game that Derek Carr got hurt, and he's become a backup, and a big part of it is the fact that he has those accuracy issues, which got him to not really believe in his arm as much, which got him to not really take those chances and get sacked, and he just was not able to get really any kind of high volume at all. I mean, he had 26 touchdowns in his second season, 26-9 touchdown to interception ratio. But once the accuracy thing became too big of a problem, he pulled back, which was just the wrong move because he was, you know, the most touchdowns he got following that was just 13. So yeah, interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys thought about Marcus Mariota in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.